Good morning. It's 10:30. We'll get started. I'm Alex Carothers from the General Lloyd Sig Newton chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And today we're talking about what makes an aircraft fly. We go out and we get on airplanes and most of us just take for granted this big old metal box is going to take off and take me where I'm going to go. Do you ever ask yourself, how does this work? How does 140,000 pounds or almost a 500,000 pounds or 1,000,000 pounds take off, fly, and land somewhere safely thousands of times a day? That's what we're going to talk about. Where did this all start? It's always my first question. When did this all get started? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you can talk to me in the chat if you like. If something isn't working, like you can't see the screen, you can't hear the video, just let me know, and we'll try and fix that. So you should see a slide that says, what makes an airplane fly? Hopefully you do.
On Thursday, December the 17th, 1903, news came clattering across the world's wire machines that two brothers from Dayton in Ohio had flown a curious-looking air machine over the beach at Kitty Hawk in North Carolina for more than a minute. And if anyone was skeptical about the claim, these pictures were to prove it was true. For several years at the turn of the century, dozens of groups in Europe and America had been trying to get a flying machine to work. But defying gravity wasn't proving easy. Nevertheless, Wilbur and Orville Wright, after a long period of trial and error, found a formula that seemed to work. The problem they and everyone else had faced was how to generate enough power to get the machine off the ground and to keep it going once it was up in a stable and steady flight. The Wrights had developed a lightweight 25 horsepower engine which provided a much higher power to weight ratio than anything that had gone before. With this and a little help on the launch site from a heavy lead weight, they were airborne and away. This dramatically successful flight was the result of several years of secret work by the Wrights, using...
All right. How would you have liked to have been that first pilot? We have a saying in aviation. Takeoff, that's fairly easy. Landing, which is mandatory, by the way. If you've taken off, mandatory, you're going to land. That's hard. That's the harder piece. So what the Wright brothers had done, they went out and experimented and figured out something that we take for granted today, but every basic first lesson in flying boils down to. Okay. Today we're going to talk about forces. Now, I'm not going to teach you all about Newton's laws and all that in this session. We do have other sessions where we talk about Newton's laws, which are really important. But the biggest thing today, we're going to talk about forces in flight, and there are four of them. What's a force? If you've ever wondered what a force is, take this hand, take this fist, and hit your hand. And you'll feel something. One of these two is going to be stinging. Depending on how hard you hit over here, you'll understand right away what a force is. Okay. But in flight, there are 4 forces. Now, can everybody see me? I had a couple folks last session where I'm just this little picture. Can you at least see me a little bit? You kind of have to tell me in the chat because I can't hear you, unfortunately. No, you can't see me. Okay, so I will change this a little bit first. There we go. Is that better? All right. So the first force we want to talk about is something called lift. That was one of the biggest discoveries. They'd figured out pretty much the other 3 forces we're going to talk about, but this mysterious thing called lift was the biggest concern. How do we get an airplane off the ground? So I've got a little piece of paper here. You can do this at home yourself. You can get a piece of notebook paper and rip it in half, and that's always fun. Yes, tearing, that's good. Make it a little thin because you're going to have to really do this the hard way if it's a really big piece of paper. Okay, for this, now when you're doing this, do not hyperventilate and pass out. Okay. Ooh, you make yourself dizzy. Okay? Just blow across the top of it. Notice there's a little bend in the paper. Whoa, how does that work? Is that magic? No, it's physics. There was a gentleman named Bernoulli, really long time ago, and he figured out a little secret. He figured out that air moving over a surface can cause a force to be produced. And we today have the ability to do wind tunnel modeling on an iPad. This is a free app that you can go on the App Store and just type in wind tunnel, and you can download and play with this yourself. It's really, really cool. And what he figured out was that if I have an airfoil, something that has a curve on the top and is kind of straight on the bottom, an air molecule that this is encountering has to travel farther because it's a bigger circle across the surface to get back to the back, to meet up with the particles that went underneath. In order for that to work, the particles going over the top have to go faster, because you have to go faster to end up at the same point back here as the stuff that's going underneath that's going slower. So faster over the top meant that the pressure up here was lower and the pressure on the bottom was higher. So I have low pressure up top and high pressure on the bottom. What do you think that means? That means there's a greater force on the bottom than on the top, and you have lift, and lift works up. So that was the first of the 4 forces of flight. The other 3, thrust, weight, and drag, we'll finish talking about. I want you to notice on the screen, there are 2 green arrows and 2 red arrows. We'll talk about that here in a second. So for this next part, let me turn off my screen sharing again. You're gonna need a little space because you're gonna get up out of your chair and you're gonna do some kinesthetic learning. Humans are generally kinesthetic learners. The things that we do with our hands and feet and body, we actually learn a bit more after we've done a little reading or been shown some things on the screen. It's really helpful if we have some interactivity to help us learn what we're talking about. We just talked about lift. Okay, we can hyperventilate and make lift, but how do I take my body and do these other other three forces of flight? So the first one we're going to talk about is thrust. Okay, so everybody get up out of their chairs. Get some space. I'm in my office. I've got rockets and telescopes and all this other stuff. I'm going to bend down just a little bit, see if I haven't worn myself out from the last session. And what I want you to do is I want you to jump up, go through your ceiling, and get on top of your roof. So just jump up, jump, but wait, jump, huh? I can't get through my ceiling. I can barely get 10 inches off the floor because I'm old. Anyway, the question is, why did my body leave the ground in the first place? What do you mean, woo? Why did your body leave the ground? What caused you to go up 10, 12, 14, 48 inches? Very good. Thrust. My legs converted chemical energy into kinetic energy by pushing me off the ground. Why did I come back down, though? Why didn't I just keep going? Like I said, through my ceiling, onto the roof, and just on into space. Gravity. Gravity beat me. I did not have enough thrust to leave Earth's atmosphere and escape its gravity. I could not make 25,500 miles an hour. Not going to happen. Okay. But thrust at least got me off the ground. It got me started. But then gravity beat me. So those are three forces involved in flight. Now, the real question is, two of those that we've already talked about are good, and one of them is bad. So what two of those three forces are good ones? They were the green arrows: lift and thrust. I, as a pilot, love those two forces. I want lots of thrust and I want lots of lift, because that third one, weight, then is bad, right? Because if I'm trying to go that way and it's working against me this way, I've got to win over gravity, weight. Okay, so that last force, drag. So if I'm trying to go that way, let's ask this another way. How many of you have ever rolled down the window of your parents' car or van or whatever you're riding in and stuck your hand out? You're not supposed to, because you're going to hit something. But you stuck your hand out of that moving car. The car is going that way. Which way did you feel your hand being moved? Was your hand going in the direction that you were traveling, or was it going, yes, backwards? That force that you feel on your hand is called drag. Air hitting the surface produces drag. It's called induced drag, parasitic drag. All of it is just a drag, because I'm trying to go that way and it's saying, oh, no, you're not. Is that a good force or a bad force if I'm trying to fly? That one's easy. Bad. So you've got four forces: thrust, lift, weight, and drag. Two of them are good. Two of them are bad. So when someone asks, what makes an aircraft fly? And you just throw out thrust, lift, weight, and drag. Have you answered the question? What do you think? Is that the answer to the question? Thrust, lift, weight, and drag? Is that it? Is that all there is to it? No. Why, Julie? Why do you say no? Because we haven't talked about the relationship of these forces. In science and physics, in studying and solving problems, the relationship of the forces that are acting must be explained. They must be talked about. They must be understood. To just throw them out there is like reading the cover of a book. You don't know what's on the inside. You just know thrust, lift, weight, and drag. That's it. Failure to fully understand how forces are interacting on a system makes for a bad day in the air. Okay, so we really have to talk about the relationship of these four forces, and it's a constant battle. Okay, like a game. The good forces are constantly trying to win over the bad forces. Now, there's a little dance that we've come up with. We've been teaching it for over 15 years now that help you physically understand what this relationship is. When someone asks you this question, what makes an aircraft fly? It is the victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. I'll say it again. What makes an aircraft fly? The victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. And I said, there's a dance to it. You can see I'm already starting. I'm ready to get up and go. We're going to do this. Now, the question is, pelvic thrust like L, what? Amy Gibson. Okay. Now, the way this works, I need a bigger office. I'm getting down here so you can see the first part of it. The way this works, when you're at a game or something and someone says victory, a lot of times people just put their arms up. Yeah, victory. So the first part is the victory. Now we're going to try and go that way. So which way does thrust need to work? That way. Now, everybody get out of your chairs, stand up. Children, do not hurt your parents, okay? The victory of thrust. This is why I said don't punch your mom or dad, okay? Unless they have it coming. So the victory of thrust, which way does lift work? Up. What produces lift on an airplane? Wings. Make yourself some wings, okay? And jump. So now we've got the victory of thrust and lift. Which way does weight work? So from lift, just keep on going down, weight. And then if I'm trying to go that way, drag is going to work that way. So you just turn sideways, and here's where the parents' backs all go, oh, drag. So the victory of thrust, the victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. All right, put it all together. What makes an aircraft fly? The victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. And walk off the stage. Believe me, this works. It helps you remember what we're putting up on the slides. And one more time so you can see it graphically. See if I can find my cursor. So there you have it. Thrust, lift, weight, and drag. If they're balanced, you're just flying through the air. If you have increasing thrust, you speed up. Increasing lift, you go up. Pull it all back, let weight and drag win. Here comes up. Everybody's laughing, la, la, la. Yeah, here's the fun part. I want video proof that you actually learned something today. Film yourselves doing the dance. Send them to me. The link's out on the page. All right, got about 6-7 minutes. I have time for questions if you have any. Last class had some interesting questions. My real question is, how many young people do I have out there? I got Amy Gibson and Julie Cup. Actually, those names are familiar. Thrust dancing. The Elvis pelvic thrust. Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions, I might be done. Adults and kids. Okay. Anybody want to fly an airplane? Here's what I wish I could just turn on video for everybody. So there are several opportunities here in New Mexico to go fly, and here's where the parents get excited, for free, COVID allowing. 2 organizations, the one that I'm president of, we actually have an aviation and space camp that we do in the summer. We had to go completely virtual last year because of COVID. And we're planning on in person this year, hoping. We'll see. A lot of our partners are in the same position. But age 12 to 18, you come out, we take you out on the base, take you down to some port, let you see all things aviation. And then the Experimental Aircraft Association, we fly young people 5 times a year for free out of Double Eagle Airport. Actually put you in a plane, let you go out and fly an airplane with your own 2 hands and see if you like it. You're gonna love it. Well, first flew an airplane, I was 8 years old, and it shaped my career. So. Not today, anyway. All right. Well, good. I said the link to our website in particular is out there on my speakers page. We have an ever-growing pile of information, free apps. We're building some interest in flight simulators, home flight simulators, and things that you can build fairly cheaply, and in some cases for free. Depends on what you're doing. So, thank you, everybody, for coming. I hope you're enjoying your virtual STEM Saturday. Hopefully we'll be back in person next year, because this is a lot of fun to have you actually sit down on a portable flight simulator and let my young sons teach your young people how to fly. So, take care.